What's going on, everyone? Here today, I'm joined by one of my old friends, and after years, we've gotten to meet, and of recent, he's been traveling to city over city right here in America, traveling to famous airlines we always talk about on the channels and in the whole credit card points realm, and staying at hotels like your Marriotts of the world and otherwise, and using his credit cards to spend supremely optimally. So today we're gonna go over questions from someone who's traveling week to week and how they're doing their whole strategy and dig in even deeper. Walk me through kind of your schedule in the last, 4 to 8 weeks that kind of speaks to your travel and overall like how it's been going week to week, just to give context into how much are you traveling, like where, what cities, if it's specific airlines or hotels, like give us like the high level 50,000 foot view.
Yeah, so I would say in the last 4 to 8 weeks, I'm typically traveling to at least one city per week. Sometimes two cities. For example, this week I'm here in Dallas for the week, whereas next week I'll be in both Orlando and San Diego, going straight between the cities. I usually try to stick with American Airlines. That's just when I was back in Nashville. That was the airline I was always using. Now in New York, they still have a pretty big presence in the LaGuardia airport. And it's kind of tough once you build status on an airline to switch somewhere else, unless you do a status match or something like that. It's tough to give up all the benefits you get on an airline. With hotels, I'm kind of split between Marriott and Hilton until I get to some of their certain status levels. Then I'll switch to the other one just to kind of have similar status at both hotel chains.
Dang. I know your job basically provides the opportunity essentially to travel like this. My question is, do they have like a corporate card for any type of expenditures or certain expenses that you can't use your personal cards for? And what's kind of that breakout look like?
Yeah, so they do book our flights and our rental cars. So for those, I don't get to use my own credit card to earn points on those. However, I do get to still earn miles on those flights, and I still get to earn credits for the rental car days. Apart from that, on hotels and food, I get to use whatever credit cards I want to try to maximize the benefits.
That's pretty sweet. So in other words, let's just say it's a $500 flight. You're not able to earn, let's say, $500 worth of points on your personal card. They basically, whether they're earning points or not is a different story. But you're getting that spend basically with that specific airline. Like they recognize, okay, hey, you would get, whatever that mapping is based on your level of status, you get those miles pretty much, right?
Exactly. That's how it works.
It's pretty sweet. And hotels intrigues me. So you get reimbursed essentially, right? For all types of spend, no matter what.
That is correct.
Do you get to spend, let's say, on food purchases? Can you buy food at the hotel itself, let's say, to have more expense added to your room such that you're earning more points if, that made sense in your situation? And how does that work basically?
Yeah, you can definitely do that. Obviously, with most jobs, they will give you a per diem, a limit that you can spend on food. And I could add that to my hotels and earn extra points at my hotels, but usually the cities I go to have some excellent restaurants, and not always are the hotel restaurants the best you can get in the city.
Fair. No, that makes sense. Nice. So they basically pay for your rental cars, your flights, you pay for on your own card, hotels as well as food, and they reimburse you for pretty much everything that you spend on your own card for hotels and food. How about like Ubers or just an example? Let's say, you're not feeling well, you're on the road, you go to like CVS to get some medicine or something. Does that come under like the food allocation, or like how does that work while you're on the road and reimbursable expenses?
Yeah, so to the first part with Ubers, you can as long as it's within reason. Obviously, I can't take an Uber a couple hours away to go hang out by the beach or anything like that. Yeah. But if it's to and from a restaurant and I wasn't getting a rental car in a big city, then they would expense that. Now, as for the CVS, if I get sick or anything like that, unfortunately, it's strictly food. You can't try to get toothpaste or medicine or anything like that under that per diem.
Fair enough. Fair. So you can definitely spend on your own at hotels, which intrigues me. So what I'd like to hear is basically what credit cards do you have today and how do you use them based on these kind of constraints or just parameters of this whole situation? And do you use your cards like strategically based on this whole situation?
Yeah, so I'll say that the card I use the most is my Chase Sapphire Reserve. Obviously, 3x back on travel, so that includes all of my hotels that I like to use for that. For the Ubers, I prefer Lyft because the Chase Sapphire Reserve, still through the end of this year maybe, it's still giving me 10x on Lyfts, which is huge. And then when it comes to food, I usually use my custom cash, max out that $500 5% cash back. And right now for this quarter, I'm using also my Discover It card because the rotating category is also 5% on restaurants. I would say my Venture X card doesn't get too much use unless I'm going to the grocery store to pick up something random just to get the 2x back on that. And the Platinum card, I really don't use for anything.
Fair. So you have the CSR, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, you have the Amex Platinum, you have the Capital One Venture X. Those are like literally three of the most popular premium travel, like higher annual fee cards. Right there at the time of recording, it's like $550, $695, and $395. Of course, we have some credits and otherwise, which justify those fees, but that's literally more than $1,000 and a little more than that. You have to Discover It and the City Custom Cash, both are no annual fee cards. Do you have anything else that comes into this strategy? Any hotel specific or airline specific cards? And I'm asking because you spend specifically at hotels, seems like, and you're able to get those expenses reimbursed. I'm just curious.
Yeah, so far I have not branched out into the hotel or airline credit cards. I feel like that should be where my next credit card should be. Right now I don't see too much of a benefit unless maybe you see otherwise on getting a hotel branded credit card. I'm already getting a lot of points with my status at both Marriott and Hilton. And on American Airlines, I could get their travel credit card that comes with lounge access, but with my airline status, they give that to me already.
Dang. So definitely you're traveling, quite often basically. And what I can see from those three cards, and we can leave the two no annual fee cards aside for a sec, seems like, you have priority pass on all three of those cards. I know they're a little different in terms of what all you can access with their specific priority pass accesses. At the same time, with the Capital One Venture X, you get their Capital One lounges in select airports. There's like three of them at the time of this recording. And with the Amex Platinum, you get Centurion Lounge access. And if you're staying at like Marriott's and Hilton, you get your gold status with the Amex Platinum. So does that kind of help you basically get to like the next level of status if you're staying at Marriott's and Hilton's, and if you're starting at gold status? And is there any thought for you to ever get like a specific American Airlines card? In this case, you said no because you already get lounge access, but would you ever consider like switching an airline or getting like a specific hotel credit card? Like the Hilton Aspire gives you automatic diamond status at Hilton. So just want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so I think if I didn't have any status at hotels, the Platinum card would be great to start off at gold status at both hotels because you do get some perks like premium Wi-Fi or things like that. But with the amount that I'm staying in hotels, the gold perk doesn't really benefit me.
Currently, you have what level of status with American?
Yeah, with American, I'm currently Executive Platinum, which is one of their highest tiers.
Yeah, so then would you ever consider, let's say, if there was a status match opportunity or otherwise, to go to Delta or United by chance?
I don't think I would go to Delta, especially after their recent changes that are making it a little tough to achieve or maintain status without a high spend on credit cards. Plus, with their lounge access changing, not this year, but next year, I can still get into their Delta lounges with my Amex Platinum, but I know next year they'll start limiting it to 6 or 10 visits a year. And I'm an authorized user on the card. I don't even know if that's going to be per card visits or is that total. There's 3 or 4 of us on that card. If it's 6 total, I might not even get to see one of those visits. And if I'm traveling every week, if I switch to Delta, I can't be limited to just 6 times a year to go to the lounge. I would need 50 times. So with the American with the American Airlines credit card, I would only be interested in that. I forget what their highest card tier is, but I missed when they were doing the 85,000 miles. That would have been a great time to sign up. I think now it's only 50 or 60,000 miles, which is still great. That's a one way to most anywhere I want to get to in the world. But I think I would hold out until the elevated offer came back.
Fair. And coming back to the Hilton Aspire where you get automatic diamond status, are you like a Marriott loyalist? It seems like you kind of flip-flop between the both, but is there like an actual focus? Are you looking for like lifetime, certain level of status with Marriott, or like how does this work for you?
Yeah, so Hilton Aspire, I know that comes with diamond status. I'm already diamond with Hilton, so I don't think I would get much benefit. I think it also comes with a priority pass again, doesn't it?
Yeah, it got updated recently, so no more.
Oh, right. Yeah. They removed the priority pass, which is not a bad thing for me to have already having 3 of those.
True.
But yeah, I don't see too much of a benefit there. What I try to do is once I get to my Hilton Diamond status, I then try to go and rack up Marriott status. And again, with Marriott, I'm now at their Ambassador Elite status, which again is the highest status they have at that hotel chain. So I'm not sure if it's beneficial for me to get any hotel branded cards to achieve status as opposed to just getting some of the benefits with them. It would be great. I know Marriott has lifetime status for silver, gold, and platinum, but that takes 7 to 10 years. So I don't see myself doing this for another 7 to 10 years to achieve any of those lifetime status. Maybe after I'm done with this job, I would look into those types of cards just to achieve those tiers at the hotel chain.
Fair. So what you've said so far makes total sense. My question would be like, is there any card, like don't worry about getting approved for it or any other type of constraints? For example, with Chase's 524 rule, where if you have more than 5 accounts in the last 24 months, you may not, be eligible or you get auto denied for another, Chase card, for example. Is there any card that you're like, man, no matter what, I would love to have this, but in addition, it would actually help your current credit card strategy / setup?
I've put a little bit of thought into it, and I know I've kind of been saying I don't know if hotel or airline specific cards would be beneficial to my setup. I do like the sign-up bonuses that the branded cards have. Hilton, Marriott, if you can get a couple free nights at hotels, or American Airlines getting 50 to 80,000 bonus miles on their cards. That would really be nice just to have a nice extra free vacation on top of already doing the spend I'm normally doing. I'm really trying to find a card that helps maximize my current setup. It's less about how much of the sign-up bonus there is and more about what would be the most beneficial to me at this current time without elevating my annual fees that I'm paying too much. That wouldn't be justified.
Very interesting. My opinion, frankly, from my side, I would say that, overall, it's a great setup. You have your capital and venture X for your miscellaneous spend. You have your Chase Sapphire Reserve for your dining and travel spend at 3x points. Your Amex Platinum, I understand your company pays for your flight, so you won't get that 5x, but you have benefits that help you. And the other cards are helping you from a rotational category perspective for the Discover It for restaurant spend. Your City Custom Cash basically is, month over month, that 500 cap. At least you can get that 5%. So that's kind of the summary. Is that fair?
Yeah.
I would say from here, in a perfect world, like from my side, I have 3 Chase Freedom Flexes at this current point. And I know, for example, shout out to Ask Sebi, because without him, I wouldn't be here. And I know a lot of other folks in the points and miles game would not be here. So, I know he has 4, for example. So what I'm trying to get at is I can see the benefit, in terms of if you had, not to overcomplicate the whole strategy, but it's basically not increasing your annual fees, but also getting more points if you're already finished with the 500 allotment from the custom cash. And let's say with the Discover It with their allotment, if you're truly spending that much on food, for example. What I would say at the same time, though, is that you can redeem these points for cash back, as you know, but also with whether it's a Chase Sapphire Reserve or having these Freedom Flexes or in combo, you can transfer these points to, transfer partners in general. So my question to you is like, what is your philosophy on redeeming points? Are you like team cashback, or I know you travel a lot, so I would assume team travel, but I would love to hear what you have to say.
I would say for the past couple of years, I've been on that team cashback just because I didn't know too much about redeeming points for travel. Since I've been watching some of these videos recently, I understand the value of transferring points to different airlines to get great flights at a great price, even economy or business or first class. So now I'm geared more towards team travel, even though personally, I don't know if I want to be traveling extra outside of what I'm already doing.
Fair.
With a lot of my points though, I'm redeeming them for family. If they want to stay somewhere, I have points to get them a hotel or a flight. It saves me having to go to these places myself. So I'm really switching more to team travel and hoping to branch out and do more exciting redemptions.
Nice. I have one fun question from my side that I'm curious to hear your thoughts about. I have my own opinion. I used to travel every week for work, so very familiar with your situation. And just for some context for the viewers, it was a Diners Club card that I was forced to spend on, which would give me 1x per dollar spent. And American Airlines was a transfer partner with them. So that benefited me heavily because of a special niche case where even today it exists. It's a specific saver reward to go from here to India, where it's just a one-stop layover in London, because the American Airlines, a flight I would book, it's partnered with British Airways. And so for 40,000 miles, that's basically like $1,000 in value, especially given the fact that although it's a saver reward, I could book it like in a very close time frame and not like 6 months out just to get a better price. So all of that to say, in this situation, like, would you travel just for the points?
Short answer, no. I think traveling this much really burns you out. There's something about being in your own apartment, your own house, sleeping in your own bed, not having to eat out all the time that really gets tiring when you're out on the road. Changing time zones, going coast to coast. It really wears your body down. Sitting on airplanes every few days. It's not that glamorous as it might seem. Sure, at the beginning of this job, I loved it. I loved traveling, but you give it 1 or 2 months and you get really tired. I would rather earn points and miles passively rather than actively having to travel to different places.
Dang. And when you mean passive, you mean like just organically spending day to day, I imagine. Versus...
Organically spending, maybe sign up bonuses, just things that don't require you to go to the airport, get on a plane, go sleep in a hotel room.
Basically not chasing status to just get status.
Exactly.
Fair. And I would say, what's your favorite part about just this whole credit card, points, miles, the whole shebang? What's your favorite part? And what's your least favorite part, just off the top?
I would say my favorite part is knowing that I'm maximizing my points. Every time I'm eating out, knowing that I'm getting a 5% discount and trying to help family members also maximize their points. Before I got into this credit card game, I didn't know. I was using my Discover It card for everything, getting 1x back on pretty much all my purchases. Yeah. You don't know the amount of points I was just leaving on the table. So I would say my favorite part is just understanding how credit cards work and making sure that they benefit me rather than me benefiting them, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, I would say my least favorite part is kind of keeping up with everything. It was easy when I just was using one credit card. I could check my statements and it was all there on one thing. Now I've got 4, 5, 6 different statements I have to check. It gets tiring keeping up every quarter, what's changing, what's my new spend, and just what perks and benefits credit cards are adding or removing. It can get a little tiring and you really get sucked into the ecosystem.
Would you give up all the other benefits we've been talking through to do away with your least favorite part of this and just stick with one card?
No, I think I'm enjoying the credit card perks too much. I love the perks that you get at the airports. I love this too much. I couldn't give it up. It starts to become second nature just using the right credit card when I'm out somewhere. And it kind of feels like a little credit card game in a sense where I know what's the best card to use and I like to just maximize value.
Fair. You're a value optimizer like myself. Fair. So I'd love to kind of open the floor. Like, do you have any questions for me or anything you have here? Because it can also help any of our viewers kind of just think through any of their next steps, any decisions, et cetera. And anyone in the comments who's come this far, comment down below with anything. I'm happy to answer it. And if there's even more insight you want, definitely happy to make a part 2 and otherwise. So yeah, go for it. Open floor.
Yeah, I know we kind of touched on what you think the next credit card should be. I guess my only question is, do I go with the hotel card and airline card? Do I go with the built card to earn American Airlines miles? There's so many options. How do you decide what is the next card for you? Before you got to the amount of cards you had, there was an entire ocean full of cards. How do you decide this is the one I want to get next?
Yeah, so at the time of recording, I have 60 plus credit cards, both including a personal and business. And the reason I'm bringing this up is for your context, like why even this many or how does this work, et cetera. So at that time, although I was traveling heavily, I wasn't able, one of the most frustrating parts was I wasn't able to use my own cards. I was like, okay, so I'm paying these annual fees. I can't even, spend on them to earn, but I have the benefits like, especially back in the day, unlimited Delta Sky Club accesses with the Amex Platinum if you're flying Delta. And that was supremely, it was priceless, for the level of travel I was doing. So to answer your question, basically I'm indirectly saying, what is the value you're looking for? In other words, for me, I was looking at sign-up bonuses because it was just the quickest bang for buck of why would I leave money on the table when I don't have to? And your credit score is still intact. You're paying off your bills in full, on time, all those good things. So the question for you is, based on the fact that you're able to spend adequately on your cards, all else equal, looks like you're able to rack up points through organic spend through the opportunity you have through your job. So it makes sense. You were looking at sign-up bonuses this is my understanding, as the better value you can get in the short term. But it can also help you if those cards aren't just, hey, I got massive value in year one, I'm going to churn them, which is not really what I encourage at all on the channel, like, to be frank. So with that being said, what I'm getting at is, seems like you're looking for, something that has some good short-term value, but also isn't gonna, break your bank, a year or 2 years later. So for example, if there's some keeper cards on the hotel side, like where you're getting a free night every single year, like, certain Marriott cards, Hilton Aspire, for example, even if you already have status, if it makes sense, you could at least just break even with the card if that makes sense for you, and you get, the X amount of points upfront for the organic spend you're doing. So this is a long-winded way of saying, since you have so much organic spend, instead of getting 2% or 5%, or if you redeem your points at 3x for 5 cents per point and I'm getting 15% back, like, that's cool and all. But in short, if you have a sign-up bonus of, let's just say, hey, spend $5,000 and get $1,000 worth of whatever back, that's 20% guaranteed in that situation. So my thinking immediately would be like, hey, you have such a way to funnel expense in a very reasonable manner. Identify that card that could do exactly this situation, is my thinking. And, are you afraid of applying for too many cards, or do you have any constraints like this? And we can get into certain specific options.
Yeah, constraints wise, I'm not in any constraints. I'm currently at 424. I still have room for one more Chase card if I want to. I think my biggest concern is being tied up and then the new card comes out, the fancy card that everyone's going for. I was lucky when the Venture X came out that I wasn't invested in the credit card scene, so I didn't have any issues getting that card yet. But I know if I was tied up in cards, it would be a little tough to start getting some of these bigger cards. So my hesitation is always, what's next? And should I save a slot just in case? Like, I know the Wells Fargo is coming out with their travel partners for their autograph card, is it?
That's right.
And so I'm worried if I apply for the Marriott and a Hilton card now, or the American Airlines card, what if I don't get the next nice card that comes out?
Got you. Well, I will say a couple of things. If it's like a Chase card specifically, I totally understand the 424, and then you get above 524, I get that angle. At the same time, it really depends how much you value the tangible value you're getting. So for me specifically, when I was accumulating these cards, I said to myself, well, hey, if a sign-up bonus is worth $1,500, $2,000 in travel, or even if it's worth, for example, a Chase card with the general sign-up bonus of spend $500 and get $200, or in other words, 20,000 points, which could be like, let's say, $400 of value in travel, that could be worth it, where like you're spending $500 getting $400, and $400 can be a lot of money depending on the situation if you're going to spend it anyways for that use case. So what I'm saying is, if that value makes sense to you, take the money on the table is usually what I say. And just from my background as a trader, we always say, like, take profits. So in other words, like, if you know it's a guaranteed positive situation, why not? Versus waiting for that one perfect situation where, whether it's a trade or a new card, and you're making, let's just say, imagine a sign-up bonus of $10,000 after spending something that maybe you can do in a certain time frame, right? Maybe there's, hey, in the next year, spend $20,000, which could be realistic for your travel scenario, and you still get even 5K or 10K. Can you imagine? It could be worth it for you. But for that one card to come out, if you're going to wait 2-3 years, and now maybe you're at 0.24, right? You're like perfectly positioned to apply. Is that worth it for you? So my challenge to you would be to think through, hey, is it worth getting, let's say, $1,000 of value over the next 6 months, or maybe $3,000 of value just one time over the next 2 years, right? And so mathematically, yeah, you make more if you just wait for that one $3,000 opportunity. At the same time, I would rather take $2,000, me personally, over the next, 1.5 years, instead of waiting 2 years for that 3K, whatever math, if you start doing the math, whoever's watching, right? But what I'm trying to say is, like, even though it's lesser in absolute value, just from a positioning perspective for that next situation is kind of what I'm looking at. So that's my personal philosophy. That's why I've gone from like, hey, I have expenses, so let me go from bonus to bonus to bonus within reason, not just like, opening and closing for no reason. Like, I'll make sure it works overall. And so that's kind of coming back to you, like, how does that sound, right? Like, would you wait for one card, but you won't get any cards for the next 5 years, right? How does that sound to you versus, hey, maybe you got 3 cards over the next 5 years and you're so happy,
Yeah, I feel like I see that, and maybe that's what I should be doing, especially with the sign-up bonuses. While I have that organic spending with travel, when I know I can spend X amount in so many months, maybe it makes sense to go for those sign-up bonuses now, whereas maybe in a few years, if I'm not traveling, it would be a little tougher to organically spend to get those sign-up bonuses. So I should look into that a little more.
For sure. All right, so based off of everything we've talked about, I think this is what I'd frankly say. I would say take advantage of the situation or the scenario, and also, like, this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor or yours, and this is just my honest personal opinion. I would say if I was in your situation, like, for example, if there's some cards, and there are cards out there, specifically business cards, and maybe you don't have a business today. Maybe you plan to do one later. Maybe you just have a side hustle. Whatever your intention is, when you get a business card, it doesn't mean you need to have, let's say, an LLC. You can just be yourself with your own social security number. Yeah, it happens to be a business card, but if I spend, let's say, $1,000 or $10,000, the point is, as long as I'm not writing off that amount against, a business expense, because it's not, there's no issue with that. You're basically just using a business card for your personal expenses, but you're not classifying them as business expenses. So that's the big difference. I just want to say that first as a context. And so fast forwarding, if you look at the Amex Platinum in terms of the business version, or you look at some of the Capital One business credit cards, there are some cards that have like some heavy, I'm talking like multiple tens of thousands of spend that you can do and then rack up X amount of points. But I don't know about you, but for me, I don't have a situation where maybe I'm spending hundreds and thousands of dollars at this very moment. And if I am in the future, hopefully that's generating me even more money, right? So what I'm getting at is if you're in a situation where hey, every single week I'm spending on average, just for example, I don't know, do you have a rough number right now? How much that is on hotels and otherwise?
Not really a rough number. Maybe you could say $1,000 a week.
1,000 a week, so 1,000 times 52 weeks, even if you're not on the road, 20% of the time, that's still like 40 grand right there, right? 40 weeks times 1,000, right there is 40 grand. So frankly speaking, and including maybe your food expenses and otherwise, is that in the 1,000 as well?
I think so.
Okay, so 40 grand right there, right? So if there's some high spending kind of bonuses, or and I'll give a part two of this in a second. So the part one is like those type of situations where maybe in your day-to-day life, if you're off the road one day and you're like, man, I don't have this many, 40K of expense every single year that is truly organic, then what you could consider is doing exactly this, right? Get a heavy set of points up front. Yeah, sure. If you really don't want the card in year two, you can downgrade if those are options. And again, I'm not promoting churning or otherwise, but I am saying in certain cases, it could be beneficial, because what happens here in this situation is if you're spending at that level, maybe the bank from their side or the lender has other options for you, or gives you preferred, offers or rates or something that could benefit you when you're off the road, and to blow up the example, the Amex Centurion card, the black card as it's called, right? Like you need, they say colloquially, 250K of spend each and every year, that do for multiple years in a row, and a lot of history and blah, 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 blah. So it's kind of like that, but this is like a mini example of that exact scenario. So if someone's on the road, they're spending like 250K or way more, they could be targeted for the black card, which maybe they're happy to have in their personal life. And then once they get the black card, maybe they're not spending much, but maybe their happiness comes from just having it, right? So that's case A. Now, case B, or scenario two in the other way, is an example of if you have, this is just like a side example I'm just making up, but it's like a true by the example. There are cards, specific cards, and if I'm getting very specific, you have your Best Western cards of the world, you have your Hilton cards of the world, and specific cards within there like a Hilton Surpass. If you spend $15,000 a year, you get a free night, for example, or, on that same card, if you spend a certain amount, you get diamond status, but then naturally, if you just have the Aspire, you already have diamond status. But on the Aspire, you spend a certain amount, there may be other kind of benefits that are unlocked. Now, are those worth it or not? If you spend like, just an example, $40,000 or $50,000 and you're getting one or two more free nights, that's cool, but that's not really the focus here. So what I'm getting at is if you don't want to open up new accounts though, you can still optimize with your current card setup or cards that make sense for your situation and extremely spending on them with this organic spend. So you're kind of extracting even more value. It may not make sense from a like cashback perspective. So a simple example is if you're getting $100 of value by spending that extra 15K, you do that math, that's like what, 0.66% off the top of my head, and I may be wrong, but it's like that, right? It's like not even 1%. But what does that really mean? That means you don't have to think about more accounts to manage. You don't need to open up new cards. You don't need to cancel any cards. You don't need to see, oh my God, this annual fee hit, and I didn't have auto pay on, and now my credit's screwed because it looks like I didn't pay off this fee. So you don't have a lot of things to manage. You're just going deeper and deeper into what you already have in front of you, and less headache, quote unquote, overall, if you just want to keep your thoughts or RAM on a computer kind of low, that equivalent. So I don't know, that's my first thoughts. I just want to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting perspective, just going deeper in the cards I already have, try to maximize the points rather than cashback. Are you basically saying maybe use the Chase Sapphire Reserve for everything, including my meals, rather than the city custom cash because the 3x points on the CSR might be more valuable than 5% back on the city card.
That's definitely a different perspective to look at as well. Yeah, so if you have a redemption opportunity where, let's say you need, and let's use a specific example here. Let's say, and I know you don't have it, but if I had, let's say, the Built MasterCard by Wells Fargo, which I do personally, one of their transfer partners is American Airlines. So having a card like that, you could just earn even more American Airline miles, where to my memory, you said you don't get any flight multipliers on card spend. But if you're like, hey, I still want to optimize for this one partner for whatever reason, right? Or back in the day, the Chase Sapphire Reserve used to have Korean Air as a partner. If you want to optimize those miles, in other words, like when I used to travel, like the Diners Club card, it would only have American Airlines as a travel partner. Not only, but it was the one partner I couldn't get anywhere else. And this was before the Built MasterCard was out. So there I used to optimize, as much as I could to spend on this card to get more miles in this regard. So indirectly, it all depends, in my opinion, not just earning, but how you're going to redeem. So that strategy is exactly what you're saying that makes some sense for you. That definitely could be an angle as well. I feel like I've been beating this topic like a dead horse. So I hope you got some value out of it today. You have anything to say to close us out?
No, just thank you again, and make sure you like, subscribe, and click that notification bell.
Yeah, guys, do that exactly. All right, man. Thanks, man. Thanks, everyone. See you in the next one.